How much scientific language does someone need to use before people stop asking questions? DNA, genetics, Neanderthals, evolution, Homo sapiens. The words sound intelligent. The words sound authoritative. The words sound scientific. Yet, sounding scientific and being scientific ain't the same thing, because science ain't built on vocabulary. Science is built on comprehension. Science is built on definitions. Science is built on evidence. Science is built on examination. And when those pieces disappear, scientific language can be used to support almost anything.
Genetically, your DNA is tied into the Homo Simian, the Homo Canine, and the Homo Porcine.
What the hell is Homo Porcine? What is Homo Canine? What is Homo Simian? Seriously, because I've heard of Homo sapiens. I've heard of Homo erectus. I've heard of Neanderthals. I've heard of hominins. I have never encountered Homo Porcine. I've never encountered Homo Canine. I have never encountered Homo Simian. Ever. So before we go another inch down this road, define the terms, because words matter. Homo is a genus, a classification used for human lineages. Homo sapiens, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalensis, human lineages. Simian refers to monkeys and apes. It is a primate classification, not a Homo classification. Never a Homo classification. Dogs belong to Canis. Pigs belong to Sus. So when someone says Homo Canine, Homo Porcine, Homo Simian, they are combining a human genus with animal classifications and presenting the combination as science. That ain't a classification system. That is inverted language dressed in scientific formatting. And if someone introduces entirely new classifications and presents them as scientific fact, the burden is on them to define the classification and provide the evidence. Otherwise, we ain't doing science. We are creating labels, and labels ain't evidence. Now let's talk about the DNA claim, because this is where many people get confused. All humans, every population, every lineage, every person alive today share DNA with pigs, dogs, and monkeys. Not because humans came from pigs, dogs, or monkeys, and not because some humans are closer to animals than others. That ain't what the science describes. What the science describes is inheritance. Life reproduces, life branches, life diversifies. The common ancestors that produce humans also produce dogs, pigs, monkeys, birds, rats, fungi, and countless other forms of life. That inheritance reaches back before modern humans, before Neanderthals, before Homo erectus, before any human lineage, all the way back to single-celled organisms reproducing across immense periods of time. Every living thing on Earth carries traces of that shared history. Every living thing equally. Shared inheritance ain't the same thing as shared identity, and it is certainly not a basis for ranking one group of humans above another. Those are different claims entirely, and that distinction matters, because notice what happened in the little clip. The conversation begins with genetics, DNA, and all kind of so-called scientific language, yet the destination ain't genetics. The destination is hierarchy. The destination is ranking. The destination is deciding who is closer to humanity and who is further away, who belongs above, who belongs below. And that's the part that concerns me, because, Black folks have spent generations confronting dominance and supremacy that use distorted science, bad science, and fabricated science to justify hierarchy, to justify ranking, to justify treating some human beings as less than others. So why reproduce the same construct Why use the language of science to create a new ranking system? Why use genetics to decide who sits above and who sits below? Dignity and superiority ain't the same thing. Dignity says human value is inherent. Superiority says human value is ranked. Those are different directions. And every time we return to ranking, we return to the same ineffective architecture. Different language, different group, different stories, same structure. The assignment changes. The construct remains. And that is where I think we keep missing something much bigger, because the moment we stop looking to the construct for answers, new questions become possible. Questions, dominance and supremacy never teach people to ask. Not who is superior, instead, what creates healthy relationships. Not who came first, instead, how do human beings live well together. Not who belongs above, instead, what creates balance, what creates trust, what creates reciprocity, what creates coherence. Because the construct trains people to organize themselves around position, who leads, who follows, who ranks higher, who ranks lower, who deserves more, who deserves less. Yet human flourishing has far more to do with relationship than position, far more to do with connection than ranking, far more to do with responsibility than superiority. That is the opportunity we keep missing, not the opportunity to reverse hierarchy, the opportunity to stop organizing ourselves through hierarchy altogether, to build models rooted in dignity instead of ranking, curiosity instead of certainty, relationship instead of domination. Because when human value no longer depends on who sits above and who sits below, an entirely different set of possibilities come into view. And perhaps that's the deeper issue with clips like this. Not simply that the science is bad, not simply that the classifications are unsupported, not simply that the conclusions exceed the evidence, that they pull people back into a construct that has already demonstrated its limitations, a construct that keeps promising restoration through superiority, a construct that keeps promising dignity through hierarchy, a construct that keeps promising liberation through ranking. And every time people accept that invitation, the imagination narrows, the possibilities narrow, the future narrows, because people stop asking what becomes possible beyond dominance and supremacy, and start arguing over who gets to occupy the top position within it. That is a far smaller vision than what humanity is capable of. And it is a far smaller vision than what many people believe they are fighting for.